they're even sort of changing their own rules to get us, just because we're peaceniks, really.
Yeah. Do you think it's because of your anti-war action and not your marijuana conviction, then?
Well, I mean, let's say that a few friends of ours in the pop business have exactly the same conviction as me and are allowed to come and go as free as they like. They just don't happen to have the same point of view as me, or they don't state it.
Will you now stop speaking out against the war?
No, nothing will stop me, and whether I'm here or wherever I may be, I'll always have the same feelings and say what I feel.
John Lennon had already challenged war, censorship, and political convention when he discovered that the United States government was quietly building a file on him. After moving to New York with Yoko Ono in 1971, the former Beatle joined anti-war rallies, supported radical causes, and talked about using concerts to encourage young people to vote against Richard Nixon. To the White House, that was more than celebrity activism. It was a possible threat during an election year, especially after the voting age had dropped to 18. Federal agents tracked Lennon's appearances, contacts, lyrics, and political plans, while immigration officials reached for a 1968 marijuana conviction that could force him out of the country. Before we begin, tell us whether you think the government was enforcing immigration law or trying to silence a powerful critic. This is the story of the FBI file Nixon's administration used in its effort to deport John Lennon. A Beatle turns political.
Apathy, isn't it? And that we can do something. Okay, so flower power didn't work, so what? We start again.
By the early 1970s, Lennon was no longer speaking only through carefully packaged Beatles songs. He and Ono had staged public peace campaigns, recorded Give Peace a Chance, and used interviews to attack the Vietnam War. Their move to Greenwich Village placed them near activists who viewed music as a tool for political organizing. Lennon appeared at rallies and benefit concerts, including the December 1971 gathering supporting imprisoned activist John Sinclair. His performance drew national attention, and Sinclair was released days later. To Lennon's friends, that showed the power of celebrity. To nervous officials, it suggested that one famous singer could energize a movement. The administration had another reason to watch. The 26th Amendment had recently lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. Millions of younger Americans could vote in a presidential election for the first time in 1972, and many opposed Nixon's war policies. Activists discussed a concert tour combining music, voter registration, and protests against Nixon. Plans were never as organized as the officials feared, but the possibility was enough. Lennon could attract crowds that traditional political organizers struggled to reach, and his message fit neatly into an election year nightmare. The file begins growing.
This is a bit hard for me to explain, but our lawyer's name is Leon Wilds, and he's not a radical lawyer, he's not a William Kunstler, nothing like that. We went to an immigration lawyer who knew about immigration, and he has really been surprised, because he worked in immigration 15 years, he's really been surprised by some of the things that have gone on. And it's very ironic that the government approved our application as outstanding artists whose presence is beneficial to U.S. cultural interests and the public welfare. The federal judge has approved that, and the government has, but we had to fight for it.
The FBI began collecting material on Lennon's political activities and associations. Agents gathered reports about rallies, reviewed newspaper stories, copied political leaflets, recorded television appearances, and placed song lyrics in the file. Contacts with anti-war organizers were treated as evidence of possible disruption. Informants supplied details from inside activist circles. One of them, Julie Maynard, reported on discussions surrounding demonstrations planned for the 1972 Republican National Convention. Her information was significant because federal officials worried that Lennon might finance or participate in violent disturbances. Yet Maynard's report said Lennon would become involved only if the demonstrations remained peaceful. That detail undercut the argument that he posed a threat of violence. The FBI continued watching him anyway, preserving ordinary political speech as if it might reveal a dangerous plot. Some reports were careless enough to border on comedy. Basic personal details were recorded incorrectly, and an FBI identification sheet reportedly used a photograph of musician David Peel instead of Lennon. Beneath those mistakes, however, was a serious operation capable of following Lennon's movements and sharing information with powerful officials. The strategy takes shape.
John Lennon's application for permission to change his status to a permanent resident was denied. Special immigration judge Fieldsteel then authorized the grant of his application for voluntary departure and granted him a period of 60 days to effect his departure from the United States.
The push toward deportation sharpened in February 1972. Senator Strom Thurmond forwarded a memorandum warning that Lennon could influence young voters through concerts and anti-war organizing. The document suggested that terminating his visa could serve as a, quote, strategy countermeasure. That wording was revealing. It framed immigration action not simply as enforcement, but as a way to reduce Lennon's political effectiveness. Attorney General John Mitchell received the material, and Deputy Attorney General Richard Kleindienst soon contacted immigration authorities to ask whether there was a legal basis for removing him. Officials found one in London. In 1968, police had arrested Lennon and Ono on a cannabis charge. Lennon pleaded guilty to possession of cannabis resin and paid a fine. Under American immigration rules, a foreign drug conviction could make a non-citizen inadmissible or deportable. In March 1972, the Immigration and Naturalization Service refused to extend Lennon's permission to stay and began deportation proceedings. The public explanation rested on the drug case. The hidden memoranda, surveillance reports, and election concerns suggested officials became interested in enforcing that rule only after Lennon became politically troublesome. The long legal fight.
It's the only time that he's ever had to go to court to force the government to consider an application like that, obtained by an injunction, meaning that as one way for us to come in is as outstanding artists or scientists. There's a special clause. Now, we put that in our case, and nobody looked at it. And it's the law that they have to look at the application. They didn't look at it, and our lawyer went down and said, you haven't looked at it. So he took them to court. And the judge and the federal judge said they have to look at it and they have to take this into consideration. Yes, they are outstanding artists and would be a benefit to this country.
Lennon and Ono hired immigration attorney Leon Wilds, who initially knew little about rock music but quickly recognized that the case was unusual. Ono had separate grounds for remaining in the country, while Lennon faced removal because of the British conviction. The proceedings dragged through hearings, appeals, and federal lawsuits. Lennon argued that the drug plea did not meet the American legal meaning of illicit possession. British law at the time did not require prosecutors to prove that a defendant knowingly possessed the substance. His lawyers also argued that immigration officials had selectively targeted him and departed from their normal use of discretion. Support arrived from musicians, writers, artists, and political figures. Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Leonard Bernstein, John Updike, Joyce Carol Oates, Joseph Heller, and New York Mayor John Lindsay were among those who urged authorities to let Lennon remain. Thousands of fans added their names to petitions. The deportation pressure changed Lennon's life. He later recalled seeing agents outside his home and hearing suspicious sounds on the telephone. Whether every frightening incident came from the government is impossible to establish, but the FBI file confirmed that his concern about surveillance was not simply imagination. The file opens.
This is a telegram that should interest you. Immigration and Naturalization Service it's addressed to. It would be an outrage and a tragedy for this country if John Lennon and Yoko Ono are deported. Their strong anti-drug stand and their clear, eloquent commitment to nonviolence and to participation in action for constructive social change are messages badly needed in America today, particularly for our youth. He goes on to say about the personal tragedy that Mrs. Lennon is forced into by choosing between her husband and her child. I join thousands of other concerned Americans in asking you to take favorable action enabling John Lennon and Yoko Ono to remain in this country. Signed, Leonard Woodcock, President, United Auto Workers.
In October 1975, a federal appeals court overturned the deportation order. The judges ruled that Lennon's British conviction did not qualify under the American statute because the foreign law allowed conviction without proof of guilty knowledge. The government's central legal weapon had failed. Lennon later received permanent resident status and remained in New York. The political story, however, was still hidden. After Lennon's death in 1980, historian John Wiener requested his FBI records through the Freedom of Information Act. The government released some material while withholding many pages on national security grounds. Wiener and the ACLU fought for years to open the remaining records. In 1997, the FBI released dozens of previously withheld pages and paid legal costs. Maynard had even authorized the release of her own reports, exposing the fact that the Bureau's informant had described Lennon as committed to peaceful protest. The opened file revealed an administration worried that music, youth turnout, and anti-war speech might threaten Nixon's re-election. It did not show Lennon commanding a violent conspiracy. It showed agents collecting lyrics, concert reviews, political gossip, and reports about a famous immigrant whose greatest weapon was his ability to make millions listen. Now it's time to hear from you. Was the deportation effort a legitimate response to Lennon's drug conviction, or did the Nixon administration use immigration law as a political weapon? Let us know in the comments section below.